Well, that went differently than any other series that the Reds and Toronto Blue Jays have played in my lifetime. I don't know about you, Steve. I think that was
Easy.
all right. The fact that the Blue Jays didn't sweep us. I mean, it's been forever since the Reds actually beat the Toronto Blue Jays. By the way, hey, I'm Jeff Carr, and that's Stephen Offenbaker. We're Locked On Reds over here. Or over there, we got Matthew Bonaparte and Ben Shulman from Locked On Blue Jays. We are going to break down this series and kind of give you our big thoughts when it comes to the Blue Jays taking 2 out of 3 from the Redlegs, some things that surprised us, and how our teams look moving forward. Spoiler alert on that. I've got some feelings as to why I think the Blue Jays are going to win the AL East. But we want to start with why this series, the big thing from this series. And Steve, I know you got a big thought on that.
I have a huge thought on that, and that is that Joey Votto has once again shown himself to be Canada's greatest export. Votto still bangs. He can come straight off of the injured list and has an extra base hit in every single game of the series. He was clearly motivated not only to be off the injured list and motivated to perform at a high level like he always is, but to do it at home in front of his family, in front of his friends, in the ballpark that he grew up attending. I think that just had to be so special for him. And as always, in big moments, Joey Votto did not disappoint.
He returned to the land of his youth. Ben, though, when you look at the Blue Jays for this series, I've got a feeling as to how you're going to go, but give me your big takeaway.
Yeah, it's just another, kind of disappointing series from the offense. And it's always good to win a series in Major League Baseball, but this was one that really felt like it could have been a sweep if the Jays could finally click. And now that they get one guy back, the other guys are down. It has not come together yet. Although in a bittersweet way, I do like watching Joey Votto get big hits. I can't deny that. He's from like 20 minutes from where I grew up, and I like it. But it would be cool if our offense was doing a lot of the stuff that he was doing. That would be nice.
I was going to say,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I still feel like at some point in his career, he's going to be a Blue Jay, if only for a minute. I don't know, though.
Right at the end. Right at the end. Maybe if you guys are looking to sell this year at the deadline.
If you talk to our front office, depending on the day, they'll give you a different answer. But Matthew, when you look at this series, the Blue Jays really pitched quite well, and that was something that I took away from them. Yeah, that was good. That was some good pitching.
Well, that's been the one thing that hasn't been worrisome. And I've said this a couple of times on our pods, like in the offseason, it wasn't the pitching that was hyped up and made the Jays whatever they were in the MLB power rankings, number 2 or whatever. It was the crazy lineup that they were supposed to throw out. Of course, Teoscar gets hurt to begin the year, and that puts a little bit of a damper on things. Of course, he's back now. Bichette gets in a huge slump. He comes back in this series, hits a couple of jacks, but it hasn't been the offense that's been consistent. It's been the pitching. I mean, you've got 3 aces at any given week in that rotation. Barrios, Gausman, and Manoah. I mean, that's an insane triple-headed dragon. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, and the Reds got the fortune, not misfortune, the fortune of missing Gausman and Barrios, but my goodness. And you got good pitching from Yusei Kikuchi, too. I know that first inning was a little bit rough.
He settled in, though.
Yeah, he settled in very nicely. And that's kind of something that I took away on the converse side from the Reds is that they pitched well. And that includes a rookie debut for one, Graham Ashcraft. He is a dude that absolutely burst onto the scene last year, was not very high on any prospect list for the Reds, and throughout last season really built up his brand. And now he breaks into the major leagues, and I loved what they were talking about on the broadcast. They said that Derek Johnson just told him, look, just go out and go after guys. I'm not going to give you a scouting report. I'm not going to give you tape. This is your first start, and you learned about it last night. So I'm not going to sit here and inundate you with information. And he pitched pretty well. I thought that, I would have liked to have seen him gone a little bit longer, but they said that he had not thrown more than 75 pitches in AAA, so it's understandable that they did not ask him to do more than that against a lineup that, yes, is it a little bit slumping based on where you would think the Blue Jays lineup would be right now? Yeah, but that's still full with a lot of talented guys.
You know, Jeff, there's a couple things on that Graham Ashcraft start that I just want to work in while we're talking about him. One of those things is that, not only was it a start that he only found out about the day before on an emergency basis, but, they had told him he was going to relieve while he was on this series. So all of his prep getting ready for this was based on probably just throwing his best 2 pitches and how to most effectively use those against whatever hitter he was facing. He had to come into this game and really, kind of finesse his way through it. And if you happen to catch his post-game interview, one of the things that he said to the media was that he knows in hindsight and reviewing the video, he was overthrowing. He was trying to put too much emphasis on his breaking stuff. He was overspinning things. His fastball was getting away from him. He was basically bringing his arm across his body and his release point was off. So I'm encouraged that he had the amount of success he did given the circumstances, but that he was able to almost instantly identify the things that weren't quite working for him. And I hope he gets another start here pretty quick, because I would like to see how he bounces back.
Something we've not mentioned yet, and Ben and Matt, I need your take on this, because I thought Alek Manoah deserved a shot at the complete game. I was flabbergasted that they took him out, to be honest with you. What'd you guys think about that?
You want to go first, Ben, or me?
How angry are you going to get? Because I could get pretty angry.
I'm not happy. I'll tell you that
You
much.
You go.
Listen, if the guy, first of all, if the dude is dealing, you cannot, you at least got to give him a choice and ask him if he wants to go back out there. You can't just yank him. And second, if he's telling you in the dugout, what are you talking about? I need to be on the mound. You can't take him out. Are you kidding me? I don't care if it's a close game. No offense to you guys. You're playing the Reds. You're playing the Reds.
Oh, yes.
All right? It is not a big deal. You're going to win either way. Let him go out there. Let him just deal for another 3 outs. You're going to get the win. And I will give him that Romano came in and dealt, but I don't really care. Alek Manoah deserved those 3 outs, and he deserved to show everybody that he has the capability of throwing a complete game, 1-run game. I mean, the guy is a dog. I think that if he was in a bigger market that had more eyes on him, he would be considered already he'd be in huge Cy Young conversations. I mean, the guy is incredible. His stuff does not get talked about enough. The way he makes the baseball move is insane. I mean, his slider, sinker, changeup combination is borderline unhittable. It's impossible to hit.
Yeah,
I'm also pissed. I will say. I'm sorry. I'm also pissed. Not as pissed as Alek Manoah was, but I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me is for those who've been following the Jays, they've way overtaxed the bullpen this year, especially Jordan Romano. He's been great, but part of the reason he's been great is they've needed him to save 75 to 80% of their wins. If you have an opportunity to not make him make the save with a guy, we don't have to get into the nitty gritty, but coming off a gastrointestinal infection, who hasn't pitched in a week except for the night before. So he was used the night before. This is the perfect time to rest him and give your stud pitcher, who you want to sign long-term eventually, the opportunity to get a complete game, not make him super angry at everyone in the dugout. And, I have a good story from Alek Manoah where when he was in the Cape Cod Baseball League, he actually played for the team that I ended up broadcasting for, not the same year. But the manager told me he tried to take him out of a game once, and Alek basically said, "Look, Tom, I'm a lot bigger than you are." And he's not afraid to try and force himself into games, because that's the kind of guy he is. There aren't enough guys like that, I think, anymore around, who take a lot of pride in wanting to go and finish games. He had 83 pitches. He could have done it. Hindsight's 2020. They get strikeout the side from Romano. They win anyway. But like Matt said, they probably would have won regardless. Why not let him get this milestone and rest Romano?
And my other thing about it is, if Romano had not pitched in a while, it would have been an entirely different story, and I would have said, okay, let him go out there and get his feet wet again after coming off the IL. He had the gastrointestinal infection. I want to see what he can do against a team that he's probably going to have success against. But like you said, Ben, he pitched the night before. We just saw the guy, and this is a dude that started the year. What was it? I don't know how many games it was, but he raced to 12 saves. It's insane. So there's just no need. I mean, there was really no need, Chuck. It made no sense to me.
Yeah, I was I was flabbergasted by the fact I think he only threw like 8 pitches in the 8th inning, and he was only at like 88 or 89 pitch. I thought, he definitely has one more inning, and especially the fact you had Tyler Naquin bunting with 2 outs like that. Whatever. There's a whole can of worms there that I don't want to get into just yet. But I'll tell you this:
somewhere Jim Riggleman is very, very happy.
Wherever in independent ball it is that he's managing. Yes, let's talk about some surprises, though. There's been a lot of surprises in this series, I think, that we will jump into here in just a moment. But before we jump into that, you got to jump into some Brownie batter puff. I mean, they've come out with some really good flavors there, Bill, and they've had that great birthday cake puff that was so tasty. It's already gone, but they had to make a new one. This one's Brownie batter puff. Talking about 150 calories, 17 grams of protein, and only 7 grams of sugar. But yes, it's going to taste like brownie batter. It's a marshmallow that has protein in it, collagen protein, so you absorb it better, and there's a lot of health benefits there too. And when you're talking about Built Bar, you're going to get 100% real chocolate that covers every single bar. So it's going to fit into your diet because the statistics are amazing, but it's also going to taste like you're going away from your diet. Steve, what's your favorite Built Bar flavor?
So, you know me, I stay pretty locked in on the Cherries Barcia. I keep that in my locker at the hospital when I'm on shift. That's my go-to. But I've been waiting to get my hands on those birthday cake puffs. I've got a box of those on the way. So I'm looking forward to tearing into those and see how they compare.
You guys had the puffs?
Yeah, a birthday cake puff kind of guy. Well, we're new to the game, so birthday cake kind of broke it in for us. Yeah, birthday cake's awesome.
I mean, and Locked On Syracuse host Brad Klein has told us all about his love for those puffs. That dude's a puff gobbler.
Oh, yeah. Give me them puffs. The puffs are amazing, and they are made with 100% real chocolate, protein-packed marshmallow. Seriously, if you haven't tried it out, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go to Built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15. Try them today. Get 15% off at Built.com. Thanks again for making Locked On Reds and Locked On Blue Jays your first listen. We are breaking down this series, and by the way, we're free and available in all podcast platforms. Thanks for making us. Yeah, I already said that. Whatever. We are talking about this Blue Jays and Reds series. Blue Jays take 2 out of 3. All right, Matt, I'm going to start with you. Biggest surprise. What do you got?
Biggest surprise. All right. So I'm going to say this is my biggest surprise. I guess I can't because it kind of contradicts myself, but I'm going to say it anyway. Ben and I do a segment on our show where we do when upcoming to a series, either Sunday scaries or Thursday scaries. And then we also do a hype train, which is we pick a guy on the other team that we're scared of, and then we pick a guy on the Blue Jays that we're hyped about. This week, I just happened to pick Bo Bichette. They call me Bone Stradamus for a reason. So, I mean, Bo Bichette's my guy. I will say I was a little bit surprised because my picks don't usually hit. But he went out and he did a couple of jacks, so I was pumped about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That hair is incredible, too.
The flow of the bow. Matt, I love that pick because he absolutely destroyed Reds pitching. And Hunter Green had a very nice streak of no-hit innings, and he blew that up on the first pitch in the 4th inning of that Saturday contest. Ben, when you look at the series, what surprised you the most?
I guess I'm going to go a little bit more negative, unfortunately. I think the biggest surprise is that the Jays leave the series with a +2 run differential from the 3 games total. I really thought this would be a series for more than just Bo to break out. Our picks, my pick not as good as his, but Matt Chapman did actually have a pretty good series bouncing back. But you got nothing from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. We're starting to run thin on our Teoscar got hurt early, and he still has time to come back. Yeah, we're giving him a little more time, but it's getting close. And, they just – I could have believed that they would have won 2 out of 3. And frankly, I probably would have thought that Castillo or Green would have still won. But to only score 2 more runs than the Reds and only score 3 runs as your series high in the first game, or in the second game, pardon me, it's just a little disappointing. I thought that they would at least leave with, a +6, +7 run differential from the series, but they didn't hit enough to make that possible.
Yeah, that run differential was very surprising to me in a different way. But Steve, what's your biggest surprise out of this? Because I feel like you got a couple.
I'll kind of piggyback on what was just said, because I mean, you from a Reds perspective, you can look at that as glass half full, glass half empty. Was the Toronto offense bad? Did they underperform? Or is the Reds pitching finally starting to pull it together and step up a little bit? And, Jeff, you and I talked about this on our other episode that dropped today. There may not be a clear ace out in that bullpen, but Diaz sure did make a case for it in this series. And the starting pitching, outside of Hunter Green not being able to pitch to Bo Bichette, that was a great performance from him. And the starting pitching is starting to come together. The bullpen is starting to come together. And now, if we can just get all of these players that are in this lineup back to AAA where they belong and get our guys back off the injured list, this team can compete a little bit. I still have hope that the Reds can put together enough wins to hit that magic number 74 that you and I are really, really interested in. And, I can still see it. I can see it, especially if the pitching continues to perform the rest of the way that it did in this series against Toronto.
Interested to the tune of a Benjamin. I'll put it to you that way. When I look at this series, and this is not going to sound like that monumental of a surprise, but when I looked at the roster that was heading north to Toronto, I was like, geez, just be competitive. That's all we need. I mean, we had Taylor Motter playing third base. His father was a Motter. His mother was a Motter. Like, I just absolutely...
He's a Motter. Oh.
He was not good. He was not good at all. Kudos to him for making it to the show, but I kind of hope the Reds never have to play that dude again, because that was a very, very thin situation there at third base. We're talking about a bunch of dudes. Like, are we going to put Moose at third? No, I want him at DH. We're going to put Colin Moran at third? I really want him on the bench. I don't know who you put at third, though, because after those two, you don't really have anybody, because Eugenio Suarez is a Seattle Mariner. So there's all this stuff that goes into the roster. Brandon Drury, who has been a revelation with the bat, wasn't able to play. And you had a bunch of guys out due to injury. We haven't seen Jonathan India in what feels like a fortnight. Haven't seen Nick Senzel. Wonder if we see him again. I don't know. There's a lot going on there. But when you're talking about a full-strength Reds lineup, I thought that they didn't have. This was a much better series than what I expected. That run differential surprised me because they just pitched so well. And kind of like you said, I think there were some rough at-bats by some dudes, but I noticed that Toronto really had a aggressive approach at the plate. There was a lot of early count swings and misses, but there was also some contact as well. Is that different from how they've been batting this season?
Not really. You think? All right. Well, we can. I think they go after the first pitch all the time.
I've seen guys take so many first pitch fastballs. Vladdy's the biggest offender.
Vladdy does. Vladdy
takes. I watched that guy take so many fastballs down the middle. And when when the ball's coming down like a meatball to Vladdy, you get amped in your seat to watch it go 700 feet. And then he just watches it go by, and I'm sitting there like, what are you waiting for? But to see these guys start to hop on the first pitch is good, because it means that they realize as well that their bats are sleeping. And as I put it together on our awards last week, Ben, those bats are in REM sleep. They're in that deep sleep where they get those crazy dreams. And listen, a guy, especially like Matt Chapman, your hype train from this week, he's got to wake it up. He's got to wake it up, get off the interstate. But I think it's a good sign, because that means Chuck's in there getting to the guys in the clubhouse saying, we're a better lineup than this. Come on.
I think at least, if you look one ahead of Vladdy, though, the last Bichette to not swing at a first pitch was named Dante, because Bo has never seen a first pitch that he doesn't like. It is a good sign, though. When this team was good last year, they swing at the first pitch, and they swing at a ton of pitches. They're never going to be a team that walks a ton. It's just not the way that they work. They want to go out there and try and hit a ton of doubles and a ton of homers. And so some of that, maybe is taken back by the dead ball, but then again, everyone's using the same ball. So I don't really want to use that as an excuse, because there are a lot of teams that try to hit for home runs that are still doing it really well this year. I think it is a good sign that they're getting aggressive. This team needs to start getting a little angry. Even though they're above 500, they're not exactly living up to what they're supposed to be right now. They're 7 games back in the division. It's May, but they should go out there and really try and bury teams like, to skew off both of our pods, like the Gabe Kapler attitude from San Francisco. Like, we want to go out there and embarrass people, is what he said. The Jays should want to go out there like they did last year and put up 13 spots on people and 15 spots on people. So it's a good sign. And when they're at their best, they are attacking pitchers. But it's hard to attack an 89-mile-per-hour slider from Hunter Green or Luis Castillo's everything. He's throwing just frisbees. I will admit, those two guys pitch really well, and I almost wanted to give the Jays a pass. You got to hit Ashcraft. You just have to.
You do.
Yeah, I was happy with his debut, but overall, yeah, I was surprised to see he pitched as well as he did because that's a tough lineup to debut against. We're not talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates here. But overall, I still think that what I've seen from this lineup doesn't dissuade me from believing that the Blue Jays are going to win the AL East. I'm going to tell you my thoughts on that, and we will look at the Reds and Blue Jays as a whole as we move forward from this series coming up here next. You are listening to this crossover here that is Locked On Reds and Locked On Blue Jays. Matt, Ben, Steve, and myself, Jeff. We are all talking about a 2-1 series win for the Blue Jays. However, I'm sensing some consternation from the Locked On Blue Jays guys that this necessarily was not the idea that you had coming into the series. However, what I have seen, and I'm going to start us off when it comes to where do we go from here, because I believe that what the Blue Jays have shown so far from their pitching staff is sustainable, something that will continue to be a big strength of this team. And the fact that you're talking about a team that last year or this last offseason went into it with the mantra of basically get the pitching. I don't know that was a hashtag that actually trended on Toronto Blue Jays Twitter. That was the thing that trended on Reds Twitter a couple of years ago, but I'm going to juxtapose it here for the Blue Jays because that's what they did. They went and they got it, and it's working. The bats aren't quite there just yet. I know they hit a whole lot of home runs in the month of April, but I think that is the reason why I'm picking them to still win this division. I know that the Yankees have gotten off to an ungodly start and are just really good right now, but I think that the Blue Jays have a more complete team than do the New York Yankees. And I think that is why they are going to overtake the Yankees probably somewhere at the end of August or something like that, because of their pitching and their hitting is going to actually work together by that point. And that's why I see them winning this division.
I don't hate that take, especially because the Yanks are a team that has an offense that's going crazy right now and that is bound to go cold at some point. And that has a rotation that outside of two guys are pretty much hit or miss every time they go out there and just have been hit as of late. So I could totally see them having a collapse month. I actually anticipate it. But the only reason I think it's going to be tough is because of the start the Yanks have gotten out to, but also you can't really count out the Rays just because there's such a team that goes out there and just plays every game like it's game 7. And they have random guys that come out of nowhere that they put into the pitching machine and that come out throwing 100 miles an hour with crazy sliders. So the Rays are always a threat. And by the time it comes to September and late August, like you mentioned, it could totally be a 3-horse race with 3 teams being 5 or so games apart of each other. So I can see that, but it does seem difficult right now because the Jays got to get the bats going. I mean, they just have to.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. The ceiling is so high, though, like Jeff said, though, because of the pitching. The pitching is so much better than it was last year. It's undoubtedly the starting pitching. I really think is one of the best in the American League and can go toe to toe with almost anyone. And one thing, as I sit here and I know the Yankees are playing the White Sox right now, but they've played a lot of Orioles, a lot of Kansas City, and so I went and looked because I wanted to see if I was really, just kind of keying in on what I wanted to see or not. The Jays so far through a quarter of the season have played the 3rd toughest schedule in all of baseball. The Yankees so far through a quarter of the season have played the 3rd weakest strength of schedule. This stuff matters. Last year, the Jays played a really tough strength of schedule to start the year. They got home at the same time as their schedule lightened up, and they nearly made a run against, one of the best divisions, I think, in recent memory, where 3 teams finished with above 90 wins and one has above 100. So it's definitely there for the taking, but the offense would have to reach, I think, a level similar to last year to mount this huge comeback of the Yankees.
It's interesting. I hear you talking about consistency. I think that's the word of which team in the AL East can be consistent. And I think I agree that it's not the Yankees. It's interesting. I've been watching the Orioles the last few nights, and that's a scrappy bunch of ball players down there.
Let's go O's.
So what they do along the way, I'm not saying they're going to be in contention, but I think they could play a great role of disruptor as this season plays out. And it may very well come down to, when you catch them and how clustered the games are. There is something to that strength of schedule point because, in the month of April, the hardest schedule in all of Major League Baseball was played by the Cincinnati Reds. And we all know how their April went. So there is something to that. So as far as the Blue Jays winning the East, I think for me, I think the Yankees are going to be the team that ends up finishing third. I think by the end of this season, it's going to be a 2-horse race between the Rays and the Blue Jays.
It's hard for me to hold my tongue here. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy talk.
We ripped the Yankees out of them. We did.
Crazy talk.
No, first of all, Steve, we got to have a talk because you're not contractually obligated to only watch bad baseball. Why you got to watch the Yankees and the Reds?
No, that was fun baseball. Those were walk-off wins. That was great baseball.
They've walked off the Red Sox and the Rays recently. The O's are fun. They're a lot of fun.
They're a scrappy bunch of don't give a damn down there.
What's really, and the keyword down there, by the way, but the exciting part about them, but also the scary part for guys who root for teams in the AL East, is that they're getting a bunch of players who are good, but also incredibly likable. I love Ryan Mountcastle and Cedric Mullins. These guys are just so easy to like. And when they're actually all together, when Adley Rutschman's there and John Means is back and everybody's playing, Grayson Rodriguez is up, that's going to be a team that, oh my goodness, they're good. And also, I like them. That's going to be really weird.
They are going to be the great disruptors, I'm telling you.
It's going to be interesting to see, especially with Adley Rutschman coming up. I find that team very intriguing. I'll give you that, Steve. That just had to throw that in there. But yeah, I think from a Reds perspective, I was very, very encouraged with Graham Ashcraft. I think he has earned another start because he's a guy that's actually going to be here in a couple of years, because there's a lot of dudes that you saw this weekend that's not going to be around whenever this team is good again, let alone for much of the rest of the year. There was a couple of guys, kind of like Taylor Motter, that were emergency, call upon this guy. We don't have anybody else. In fact, they had to bring up Aristides Aquino, who they sent down a couple weeks ago because he had struck out nearly 50% of the time. Just absolute, yes, Punisher. Yeah, I know.
That's a name to remember, Aristides Aquino. That's
that would be a trivia
question.
Yeah, I was about to say, Ben and I play He Was a J. If he ever hops on a team for 10 minutes, he'd be fantastic.
I've wanted to see a change of scenery for him, but yeah, I don't know. He keeps passing through waivers. I don't think anybody else wants him. I think it's crazy, but. There was just so many guys like that I look at and I'm like, they're not going to be around here. But I was happy to see that Graham Ashcraft is actually doing something. And I continue to just fall in love with Alexis Diaz. I think that he's going to be a dude for them out of the bullpen for a long time because of his delivery, the deceptiveness of it, but also just how fun that fastball is. I think he can locate it to a point, but there's also to a point where he's just this is coming plateward. It's going to be somewhere around that little box thing. You might have to swing at it. I'm not really sure. And then he drops in a slider that's just going to go right underneath your bat. And he's so much fun to watch.
The thing with this team, I think, Jeff, you're understating it just a little bit. This team was constructed of players that they weren't going to keep around for a long time. A lot of placeholders. On our show, guys, we keep talking about the year 2024. There's so much young talent coming through the Red system right now that's all slated to arrive around the 2024 baseball season. But what has happened is they constructed a team this year that they hoped might maybe get to 500. And now all of those guys are out injured. And we're running lineups out there with guys. I'm telling you, it is a daily dose of who the hell is this cat? Every time you look at the Reds lineup. And, you have to, I spend a lot of time on Baseball Reference now trying to figure out if they are inventing names, because some of these players I've never heard of. So I think as we start to get players back, Nick Senzel's on a rehab assignment. Jake Fraley is on a rehab assignment. Solano and Barrero are both going to be back here before too long. That changes the makeup of this team. They're not going to win the division. They're not going to compete for a playoff spot, but I think they're going to win Jeff and I our money back that we threw down at betonline.net, because we both took the over on the win total this season, which was 73.5. We need 74 wins, and I think they can get there.
I'll keep my eye out on that for you.
I will say to tie it a little bit together, like you're talking about the young guys getting leaned on. We mentioned the Orioles with Adley Rutschman coming up. I think on our side, a lot of people forget Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a year younger than Adley Rutschman is. He's in his 4th year in the majors. Bo Bichette's the same age. Alejandro Kirk is younger. Consistency is a tough thing to find when you have young guys, whether you're a team like the Jays going for it or the Reds trying to rebuild. It's baseball, and it's hard to get young players to come out and play the same every day.
I totally agree. And I'm looking forward so much. That AL East race is going to be fantastic to watch. Sorry that you get it from both sides there, Matt, but it's going to be intriguing for sure.
It'll be something. I'll tell you that much.
And I think that is a great place to wrap it up. Matt, Ben, want to thank you guys so much for talking this series here. Steve, I guess I can thank you too. I mean, I talk to you every day. We'll definitely be keeping our eye on the Blue Jays, though, because they are going to be a fun team to watch the rest of the year. And this Red side, I mean, who knows? If for some reason anybody in Toronto's ever down in Cincinnati, you're going to get a cheap ticket, and you're not going to have to actually sit in the nosebleeds. You're going to be able to sit in the lower bowl. So there's that too. But
Joey Votto.
And Joey Votto, Joseph Daniel Votto. There we go. I got one in today too. All right. That's going to do it for us, though. Thanks for making Locked On Reds and Locked On Blue Jays your first listen. Now go make Locked On MLB your second listen, because Sully's got his unique perspective on the major leagues, both past and present. That's Locked On MLB, just like Locked On Reds and Locked On Blue Jays, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. We'll talk to you guys soon.